Hi everyone, we are going to start with a Java session, and this session would be dealing all about JFrames in Java. So this is not related to the Java tutorial series or the course that we are currently running, but it is something uh, I found like few students discussed over our mails or channels that they want to know more about the desktop applications using Java. So I just thought of to start with this another series, random series kind of thing, or random classes we can go for these. So where we will be creating up understanding of the GUI part, the graphical user interface in Java, right? So to start with our this GUI programming, one should have some knowledge of Java. So they should know like writing out variables, if-else conditions, loops, right? And they should know also the classes concept. So we have already gone through the classes concept, the classes encapsulation, getting and setting the properties. So all these things we have achieved in our the tutorial series or the live classes series. So you can go through, that is available on our this YouTube channel, and the playlist is available, right? So you can go through that playlist series and you can come back to view this tutorial or this video where we are going to talk about how to create the frame in Java. So this is not the Java FX part. This is like we are talking about the core Java thing where I will use Java Swing package and its classes to create our frame, right? Currently in today's session we are not going to discuss about like, okay, I created up the frame and then I'm going to connect it with the database. So everything is not going to be achieved inside this class itself. We'll be only creating up the view part, that is your frame. We'll add few components like buttons, labels, text field. We'll see how it can be created in the easiest way, right? And what is the logic working behind that. So to start with, let me share my screen, and here we go. I have opened up a Eclipse, so I believe everyone would be able to see this now. And with Eclipse, we'll be building up our frames or the desktop application in Java, right? So again, I'll once again tell that what is the agenda of this session. It is very simple. We are only going to create the desktop application view, not a complete desktop application. So that will be a separate series we'll do later. We'll take a mini project and we'll write up we'll do up some videos on that mini project also. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is we have to create up a new Java project. And in case if any of you is not able to find the new Java project option here, you can select a project and then you can look for a Java project from this point, right? So here you can see the Java project. I'm not going to use any drag and drop right now. We'll do it later because I want to show you what is going to happen behind the scene inside this window builder part, right? So here we are going to call it as my frame demo, and we'll go for the next. So here I'm going to take not do any changes in my default setting. So next, then we'll deselect this, create module info.java file, and we'll finish it. So my project has been created. This is a blank project. If you see on the left side, you will find that the project is created. It is not having any source files right now. So we are going to create few source files, right? So I'm going to right click on my project, new. I want a new class. So what is the best thing we can create over here? Let's create a login frame, right? Let's create a login frame where I will accept the username from the user and the password, and will give him two buttons like submit and the cancel. So we are going to make a UI of a window, right, where it will have a username, password field, and then two buttons. Now, in case if anyone is not aware, like what is the window, I'm again and again using frame and window term. So if you see this, this Eclipse application, this window itself is a frame, right? This is a frame. It contains up three buttons over here. This one is like the minimize button, so it gets minimized, right? This is maximize button, so it gets maximized, and this will be the close button. If I click on this, it will be closed, right? And apart from that, you have a menu bar. So you can see like file, edit, these are the menus on the menu bar. Okay. And after that, you have a lot of menu items, and you will also see certain menu items are having a arrow mark. So that means those menu items are still containing more menu items, right? But actually they are not the menu items. They are menu inside the menu, right? So at the top level, I have a menu bar, then menu file. Inside that, I have again a menu that is new. And inside that, I have a lot of menu items. Okay. So these are all menu items. And if I click on other, it opens up a dialog box. So this is a dialog box, right? This has, you can say like a middle level container, middle level frame. So this is a dialog box. All right. Okay. So now we want to create our own frame. So how can we create a frame? We need to understand a bit of like very short part of the theory. What are the classes which are going to run behind it? Right. So all those things we have to understand. Without understanding the theory, you can make this program. You can get that frame, right? You can see that frame, but it won't be very much good for you guys. So understanding the logic behind every thing that is running on your screen should be good. So I'll open up my notepad. Just give me 1 second. Right, here it is. Okay, so I have my right. So here comes, I'll take a new page. Fine. So now when I say I have to create a frame or a window, so what package I'm going to use? I'm going to use a swing package, right? Swing package. So anyone who is having some existing knowledge of Java may come and say, okay, I have studied in the college that they are using a AWT package, right? AWT. So the full form for the AWT is Abstract Window Toolkit. Okay, Abstract Window Toolkit. Now Swing is not having any such name, or maybe I have not read it anywhere. In case you guys find it, do try to write it inside the comments. Swing, I believe it is the Swing package only, and the package path is javax.swing. Okay. Now this contains a lot of classes. When I put a wildcard, means it contains a lot of classes, and these classes, I'll write down few classes name. One is JFrame. Okay. Then you have a JButton. So you will get a complete toolkit kind of thing to create your own windows, buttons, then labels, text fields. So you don't have to design them, right? You don't have to create it from the scratch. They are already made. You have to just alter their properties. You have to make the changes in the properties to consume them in your program, right? Now, why I referred this AWT over here? So AWT was a library which was providing these all frames, buttons, labels, text fields, right? And then, but there were some problems with this AWT component, that they were heavy. So they took some time to load, right? So look and feel was not good. Look and feel was not actually like a button or a label, right? If you added a button and a label, they looked like same. You never found the button was a clickable button, like a toggle button. So it was looking same. Second, there was no support for the images. If I want to put an image on my button, so image support was not available. Okay, image support was not available. So this was one, like few of the problems which or limitations, not the problem, because at that time they had only that amount of kind of searching and I'm not searching, but I think development part was done. So AWT was a good library, but then they found they inherited up this AWT library. So all the classes were inherited further, and they gave us new classes which had all these limitations being updated or resolved, right? So now the Swing package components were all lightweight components, right? The look and feel was good. Then the image support was also available, so you can add an image on the button, right? An image behind the frame. So all these things we are going to use in the desktop application, right? One more thing we will understand is Swing package we are going to use inside the desktop application. Now when I say desktop application, means we will create a client, we'll create a frame, a window, which will be installed on your client's system, right? On your client system. So he can access the data from the database, right? In a very user-friendly interface, right? So now if I look at this JFrame class is inherited from the frame class, right? Where is this frame class coming from? JFrame class is from the Swing package, frame class is from the AWT package. Now you see the concept of inheritance. Using inheritance, they got saved from writing everything from scratch, right? They just inherited it from frame. So everything which was required was passed to the JFrame, and anything which was like to be enhanced, that was written inside the JFrame, right? So you don't have to like write it from scratch. Every class write it from scratch. You can use inheritance. So that is what the Java developers did, right? They had already a frame class which was having some limitations. So to overcome those limitations, they wrote a new class JFrame, inherited it from frame. So all the existing features were there. Now I can do some overriding, some fixes, right? Removing of some previous features which were not required anymore. So we have overwritten the frame class and made it a JFrame class, right? So moving ahead, now how to create this JFrame class, how to use this JFrame class, or how to create my on frame. That's why I have written the name here as like my frame demo. So inside this class, inside this project, we'll create a frame, and to create that frame, we will consume our JFrame class from the Swing package, right? Now to create a new frame, I can do it in two ways. One method is make instance of JFrame class, right? You can make the instance of JFrame class. One is you can make the instance of JFrame class. Second one is that we can inherit this, right? Again, the concept of inheritance. So you can inherit your JFrame class, right? You can inherit the JFrame class. The benefit of this is that you don't have to unnecessarily make the instances of your JFrame class. The work will be done by the Java itself. Okay, I got a question here in the chat section. Sachiv Mehta is asking, like, do we have any other editor option instead of Eclipse? Ellipse? No, it is Eclipse. There is a typo error from him. So Eclipse to create the project, right? So Sachiv, yes, we have a lot of IDE. You can use Eclipse. You can use NetBeans, right? If you can buy a license or you are doing some very limited work, you can use IntelliJ, right? Which is a very good editor. Like both Eclipse and NetBeans are maintained by a community. Eclipse is, I think, acquired by IBM. I think so. I have read it somewhere, and I see somewhere the logos where Eclipse logo were there. Sorry, IBM logo were there on the Eclipse side. So IntelliJ is a paid IDE, right? And you get a lot of good tools and plugins for your IntelliJ. So this one is a very good, perfect choice for the developers. Apart from that, you have more of the IDEs. You can even use Visual Studio Code, because in today's session, I'm not going to use any drag and drop kind of thing to make these frames. It would be all through the code only, right? So let's come back to our point. So I want to create a frame and I'll use instance of the JFrame, right? I'll create an instance of the JFrame. Second option is I can inherit the JFrame. So your class will become a frame. Your class itself becomes a frame. Now they both have their own specific like aspects. So if you want to create a single frame from your class, use the inherit option, right? If you want to handle multiple frames, I'll suggest for making the instance. Make the instance of the JFrame, right? So let's write up some code over here, how you are going to make the instance and how you are going to make the inheritance. Now think of your class as login frame, right? You have a login frame class. So login frame class, I want to make my instance of the JFrame. So first thing you have to do is you have to import it. Import your javax.swing.jframe class, right? So we are going to import it. So once imported, I can create an instance variable of this. So JFrame, I'll say login frame. Now don't get confused over here, the names are same, they both are different. This is in your Pascal case, right? This is in your Camel case. So they both are two different names. Java is case sensitive language. Now I have created a frame, but I have not initialized it. So I'm going to initialize it in my constructor. So we'll have a constructor of login frame, right? And inside this, we are going to initialize my frame, right? And after that, I can write some configurations of the frame. So let's write some config also. Okay. After doing this, when I run this project, I need a kind of driver class or my client who is going to consume or run your login frame, right? Who is going to run your login frame class. So basically we also call it as a client, consumer, or a driver class, right? So this driver class will consume your login frame. So that driver class is basically the main class, right? The main class which will contain the main method. Okay. So let's switch to the code. Else you guys will always think like people like talk about the practical classes, but then they stick to a lot of theory. But no, this is like 100% practical. So let's create up our class, which is login frame class, right? So we have already set up our project. We'll go to this my frame demo, click on new. So here we'll look for the Java class. If you don't find this class option, no problem, go to other and search here for class, right? So you will get the class to be created inside your project. So select this class. Next, we can have the packages. We have already studied packages, right? And it is a good practice. So I'll call it as like I'll write my name com.js, though this is like domain name, right? So my domain name here is JS trainer dot, and I'll write my application as, let's suppose this is a kind of any college management project, right? So I'll call it like a student management project. So I'll call it as SMS. Okay. And inside this, I'll write a package called as view. So this is only a view part. Okay. So write some package name, or to keep it very simple, I'll write it only com.authentication, right? Because I'm going to make a login frame. Now here I'll call this as login frame. My class name is login frame. I'm not going to mark this class as a main method because I want a separate main class, right? I want a separate main class. Fine. So that's a separate main class is going to handle up all the code. It will be initializing and making up the instances of the various classes, whichever we want to evoke, right? So I'll click on finish. We get a login frame. It gives us a skeleton constructor. That is the default constructor, which is not containing any parameter, which is not containing any instructions also. So that is all what we have to create it. So the first method, that is by creating an instance, right? So we are going to write a private JFrame, and I'll give the name as login frame. Okay. In case if you guys are getting confused, no problem. We can change this name to only frame or FR, right? So now this thing is not imported. So either you can write it manually. You can go and write import java.swing.jframe. So this is one method you can do, right? If you want to do a shortcut kind of thing, so jframe. So here you can, while writing up this thing, I'll show you. So jframe, and you can press the control and space bar from your keyboard. Mac users may have to use the command and the space bar thing. So here it is showing me the drop down, which is like showing all the classes starting from the JFrame. So I can select this JFrame, and you can see it is automatically imported here. Okay, so JFrame, I'll use the name frame, and I'm good with this. So I have created a variable. I'll put some comments, which would be very helpful when you watch this recording once again. So this is create a new variable for JFrame class, right? JFrame class. So I have created a new variable for the JFrame class, and I need to initialize that variable. Okay. Initialize the variable. Now, in case if you guys want to know why I have created it in line number 8, why I have not written it like jframe fr1 is equal to new jframe. So then you have to go back to the variable scope session where we have studied out like what are local variables, what are instance variables, right? So these things have to be managed over there. So I'm not going to discuss instance and local variables right now. I have created up a variable in line number 8, and now I want to initialize this variable here. So jframe is equal to new jframe, right? So I have initialized it with a default constructor, the constructor which is not taking any arguments, right? So there would be some internal initialization for this jframe, and I have got my frame created. Okay, now I need a driver class which is going to run this login frame. Okay, so let's go and write up a new class, and we will call it as a main class, or I can write it a name application, right? So it contains a main method. So I'll select this main method, right? And I will remove this auth because this class needs control on all the classes. It may require to call either of the classes, right? So we will select this as com.jstrainer package only. Okay, so I got this application class. I don't need any constructor for this for now. And inside the main method, I'm going to create the instance of my login frame class. So login frame is your variable, is equal to new login frame, right? Now this login frame is giving me some error. The error is that this login frame class is in a different package. Your main class is in a different package. So you need to import this also. And for importing, just select your class, put the control space bar key together, press the control space bar key together, and select this login frame class from the drop down, right? So now you can see it is imported. Great. So now my constructor has been created, and I don't find that any methods are yet been written in your login frame class, right? So your application is only creating the instance, and let's run this project, right? Though you may be thinking like, what is going to happen next? Am I going to see a frame? No, it won't be, because by default frames are invisible. You have to make them set visible, right? You have to set them visible. Visibility should be set to true. You have to enable its visibility. So here I will not see any frame, but I'm going to run this because we want to see whether it will throw any error. So answer is no, it should not throw any error, and that means your application would be good. So let's run this. Okay, so application is running in the background, but it is not showing me anything. The reason is because your application is not able to keep this frame active or visible, this frame, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this frame by saying frame dot set. Now remember those getter and setters. To make the changes inside the frame, there would be a lot of properties, right? So you are going to use all those getters and setters here. So frame dot set visible, right? Now you can ask me a question, how will I remember these properties? How did I remember it? So it is like you have to write the code, you have to practice it to remember all these properties, right? They are not a one-day task. The more you practice, the more you will remember these properties and their getter setter methods, right? So frame dot set visible. Okay, now set visible is going to take an argument boolean. So you will get from this documentation that it requires a boolean argument, right? So here we are going to give a boolean. So what I want to do is I want to set it visible. That means I'll say, okay, true, set it visible. I'm setting the visibility option to true. Now my frame would be visible. By default, your frame is of very like 0 size, right? It's not very small. It's 0 by 0 size. When I say 0, it has a size in the terms of coordinate geometry or x-axis and y-axis, right? So let's run this program and see what is the output. So we'll go to the application.java, run this. You have a lot of options to run your application. So click on right click on application, run as Java application. Okay. So now where is my frame? I cannot see it on my screen, but in case if you look very carefully or you check it over here, I'm dragging it. So this is your frame by default. If you see this frame, this is a very small frame, right? With 0 by 0 size. It is not containing any width, any height. But when I click on this and try to drag it So I'm resizing it, right? By default, you can see it is having the feature of resizing. If you want, you can disable this resizing. You can remove this minimize button, right? You can remove this maximize button. So it covered the whole of the area of my screen, right? And then we have a close button. Now, one very important thing which you will miss over here if I don't discuss this thing, the close button. If I close it from here, it has not exited your program, right? It has not exited your program. How can I say so? We'll look into this. Let's open up a new window, that is output window, right? Others, let's check for the out. Okay, it's not outline. Progress, let's check this progress. Okay, I'll run this program once again. So I go to the application, run as Java application. Okay, here it is. I can find it again. So I'll scroll it up. Okay, that is a server. 1 minute. I'll check it once again. Show the view. We want to check the output view, right? So console, open, right here you can see, yes, exactly. I wanted to show you the console. So if you see the console, the red button is active, and that red button is actually telling about my like referring to my program that has been executed, right? So if I just click on this, close it, this red button is not stopping, right? Or this is not getting disabled. The reason is by default your program that got active is not closed, right? It is not destroyed. The memory which was being consumed is not destroyed. Only it's like hidden. It's not doing anything. So for now you have to stop. You have to terminate your program every time from here, right? Which is not a good practice. You cannot tell your client that whenever you run your software, you have to put some commands to stop it, or you have to go to a specific part in your application and press that button. If he just simply closes it from the frame, like right button, right top button, that is the close button, he understands that it will be closed, right? So that is what we have to do over here also. So few teachers I have seen, they start putting up the event handling over here, which is not good. You don't need any event handling, right? You don't need any event handling. All you need to do is you have to tell that this login frame has a default behavior, frame dot set default close operation, right? Set default close operation. And I'll show you with the documentation also. You have a lot of options on this. Any frame, when you select any of the frame, you select this method, it has few options. Do nothing on close, which is the default behavior, right? Second one is hide on close, which will actually hide it only, right? Dispose on close. So dispose on close means only current frame, this frame would be disposed, right? The next one is exit on close. So this frame would be exited. This frame would be exited. Okay. So now not only this frame would be exited, the whole application would be exited. So for now, I'm going to use this dispose on close, right? So I'm going to use this dispose on close. So here we'll use dispose on close, and for that, where I can find this dispose on close property, it is inside the JFrame, right? JFrame, these are the constants. Dispose on close, these are the constants which may be returning some integer value, right? And based on that integer value, internally Java would be setting some behavior for your frame, and that behavior I'm setting here is dispose on close. Okay, now we will see that when I close this frame, which actually this method tells set default close operation. So I'm saying dispose on close, only this frame needs to be closed, right? And if there are any other frame open, that means the application will still be in the running state. And if there is only one frame, it will be exited. So this is a bit complex behavior. Exit means any frame is open, it will close. Dispose on close means it will close this frame and will check any other frames are available. If not, then it is going to exit the whole program, right? When you watch this recording, try to go through this few lines couple of times so you understand it. And we'll see this practically when we write multiple frames. But for now, I am going to run my class once again. Okay, So the program is executing and you can see there is a frame which is of very small size. You may be getting irritated that why I am just dragging it and resizing it every time. Why can't I set its size, right? That is what the next point we are going to do. But for now, let's close this and see whether this red button gets disabled or not. So I'll close it from here for a second and you can see it was checking whether there are any active threads or any active frames available. No, it didn't found any, right? And therefore it has disabled or terminated the whole program. Okay, let's make a small change. If you could have found that it was taking some time, right? When I was closing that frame, it took some time kind of to verify any existing or frames open. So if I close this, see, it took some time, a small second, half a second, or maybe a second or two. It took some time, right? Let's go and make a small change here. I'll say exit on close. So exit on close means exit the application. Don't wait for anything, right? So let's run this and see, is there a time difference any? And I'm not very sure. I found it sometimes, maybe that can be on the basis of performance of my system, maybe, but let's close this. Okay, see, it immediately went disabled, right? So there was a small difference. When I selected dispose, it took some time to verify the open frames, right? And then when I said exit on close, means it was a command like, okay, exit everything, whatever you have, exit it, right? So let's go here and say jframe dot, because I have only one frame for now, I'll use it exit on close, right? Okay, now coming to the size, let's set the size of the frame. So frame dot set size property. So I'm going to set the size property, right? So setting the size property, you have two options, height and width. If you know that what is the height width you have to give. If you want to give in the relation of the dimensions of your screen, you may have to select this dimension. Okay, this is something we'll do later because we'll go into some advanced part of writing out your frames, though it is not very advanced, but due to the time constraint, we won't be able to do it right now, right? So let's keep it very simple. I'll give some width. So width is your x-axis, height is your y-axis. So I'm giving 200 pixels for both. Okay, right, let's run this. Okay, you can see a 200 by 200 pixels frame. Let's increase the size. I want to put it 400 by 300, right? So it would be width in 400, height in 300. And I also want to set something more, frame dot set, so set location, right? So we are going for the location. So location, I'll give a X and Y. Point class also can be referred. If you are aware of point class, good, you can use that point class. You can create a point class, put the X and Y dimensions, and then put the pass that point class to the set location method, right? So this is a overloaded method. So you have two methods with two different like parameters type. So one is point, another one is int. So here I'll take the X and Y. So I want to set it somewhere around like 200 by 100, okay, or 300 by 100. So I'm not talking about the center of the screen. That is entirely different thing. That is more logic, right? We'll understand the logic part later. So here we are seeing up the rules, how we can set the size, location, how can I close it by default, and what is the like option to make it visible, right? So here you can see it's giving me a good frame at this point, right? I want to change the color of this frame, right? How can I do it? So let's now every property that you want to set of frame, you can set it through frame. So frame dot set background. So can I set the background? Yes, you can set the background, right? So let's go over here. It is asking for a color instance. So you can say color dot. So color has some properties. Color class has properties, color dot. I want to set a gray color. Gray is I think already there. So I want to set it like a light gray color. Let's try this one. The one which should suit our eyes. Blue or red may be too bright. So we'll select this one. Okay. So let's run this. Okay. It's not showing anything. I'll try to change it to a different color, right? Let's try a blue color, which is going to be very bright blue. And let's try to run this. I cannot see it, right? I cannot see any color. But if I just expand it, I resize it, I saw a flash of blue, right? Now why I cannot see that blue over here? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to approach a like different thing over here. That is, I'm going to introduce a middle level container which is called as panel. With panel, I can set a lot of like I can set a lot of panels in a single frame, right? So it would be like you are dividing your frame into different sections, right? So I'll set the panel, I'll create a panel. So you have to include that panel also. Panel is like a transparent container. You won't find any different color or unless you change the color of panels. So I'm using this panel, I'm setting it, I'm adding it to my frame. But before adding it, I need to initialize that. So panel is equal to new jpanel, right? Now use this panel and add it to your panel dot set background, and I'm going to change the color of the panel like I did for the color dot. I'll set it to cyan. Okay, very light color. So I'll remove, okay, I have already removed it from the frame, right? I have already removed it from the frame. So I have created a panel, create a panel and add that panel, add the panel to frame. Now if you want to add your panel to the frame, you have to use again the instance. There is a add method to add your components, right? So a lot of overloaded methods, add pop-up menu, add component. So right now we are going to use add, and I'm going to supply my panel to it, right? Component is the most parent. Okay, we got another question from Sachiv, very active user. Do we have any other option for defining height and width like pixels, percentage, em? No, Sachiv, for now I believe it is only you can use the pixels over here, right? So you cannot use the percentage with this code. EM, I believe it is not available in this. It is more into your HTML thing, right? HTML and CSS stuff you mention up for your web pages. So here we are going to use pixels only, and this is like with the code, right? But later on I'll show you how you can use the window builder plugin in your Eclipse to create a drag and drop kind of thing, right? You can pick up a button, drag it to set the size. So that is one very good stuff which makes your development very rapid, right? Obviously we cannot write up all the code, at least in the designing, when you have to write up all the pixels thing. You want to be a pixel perfect, give a pixel perfect UI, that takes a lot of time. So at that time your drag and drop feature gives you a lot of benefit. Okay, so we'll come back to the frame creation. Frame.set default close operation, set location, set size. We have added the panel, everything is good. Let's run our application. Okay, you see it in cyan color, right? You can expand it, and as much you expand it, you will get it covered in the whole of your frame, right? Your panel, this color is of panel, not of your frame, right? You don't have to set anything on your panel for closing the frame, right? It is only set on the frame. Frame is at the top level. So inside the frame, I have selected a panel, right? So anything that you add to the panel will cover the whole area of the frame. That is because of the default behavior. When you add the panel to the frame, it covers the complete area due to border layout dot center position. So it is using the center, right? Center position of the border layout. So it is covering up all the area of the J frame, right? So we have a frame now, we have a panel in place. We have now, we have set some size of the panel. Okay, now let's try to add some username label, right? And a text field and a button. So quickly, we will see the classes that we require. So private, I need to have a JLabel class. So with the JLabel, I'll use, let's write up some convention over here, LBL user name. Okay, then LBL the password. So I have two labels. I need to import this, and I will have a text field. So for the text field, you need to use the class JText field, right? And we'll use the txt user name. Okay, why I have not taken a text field for the password? Because I have to mask my password, right? So here I'm going to say private J password field. I'll call it as pwd password, right? So import your password field also. Fine, we have the password field, text field and label, and last I need the button. So for the buttons you take the class as J button. Okay, so J button, I'll declare two buttons over here. One would be btn submit and btn cancel. Remember, these are all your variable names. Okay, so now the display name, we will declare them inside our initialization part. So now we are going to initialize up this stuff. We'll say lbl username is equal to new J label and give a name to it. So I'll call it as username, right? So next I'll select the label, and that is your password, right? And I'll give the name to it. That is, I want select, I will, like, user can see that this is a password field, right? And after that I need to initialize my text field. So I'll use txt username is equal to new J text field. So if you see, whether you initialize your frame, panel, label or text field, everywhere you have to just create an instance, right? And then you can look for the matching constructor that solves your purpose or the requirement, right? So I want the text field for like size of 10 columns, and then I'll take a password field is equal to initialize it with the J password field, right? You don't have to give any length over here. This is optional. But if I'm taking up a text field of 10 size, I'm taking also a 10 size password field, right? So that's like a showing of a 10 characters at a time. Okay. So next I'll go for the button submit and button cancel. We have to initialize our button. So J button, I'll initialize and pass a text to it. This text would be visible on your button, right? So this is like submit button, and similarly I'll have a button cancel, right? So we have a cancel variable. Button cancel variable is equal to new J button. I'll put a cancel text on it. Now naming of the variables is very important, right? And Java uses some sort of this convention. Maybe different programmers here can have a different approach, but I personally use this kind of convention so that in later part of my code I do remember up like what is the name of the text that I can see on the field, and later I can think of, okay, its name would be lbl username, right? Or txt username. Fine. Now we are going to add everything inside our frame. So answer is no. If you add anything to your frame, it will be visible on the complete area, right? Let's quickly check this. So I'll comment my frame dot add panel. I'll just try to add a single button for now. Frame dot add btn submit, right? Let's add the btn submit here, and let's run our program and see. I have not added anything else. I've just added the button. See what is the behavior of the frame now. The button is coming on whole frame. If you just increase this, like resize it, you can still see submit button is coming on the complete frame size, right? This is because of the behavior of your border layout. Border layout puts everything in the center, right? So either you go and put something in the you can change the border layout behavior by adding it like frame dot add button submit. To what part do you want to add, right? That we'll see later. Separate like the layout section, we'll have a separate session on that, how to change the layouts. So for now we are going to use everything as default ones. So now I will use the default layout of panel, right? So I'll add everything to the panel and then add panel to the frame. So add all component to panel, right? I'll add everything to the panel. So now when adding everything to the panel here, so panel dot add. So first thing I'll add is label username, right? After that username, I'm going to add my text field. So the text field should come before the label. This is called as flow layout, right? Panel has a flow layout. Panel has flow layout. It will be floating. So you need to add the components one after another as you want to make them appear. So after label I want text field, and then I'll say panel dot add, I want to show my label password, right? And after that I want to show the password field, so add pwd password, right? Panel dot add button, submit, and last I want to show panel dot add btn cancel, right? So we have all the components being added to your panel, and panel is added to the frame, right? So let's run this and see how it looks. Okay, so now it is looking something like this. Not a very good design, I know, but we are not using anything in the terms of layout for now. We are only using the default layouts. So if you just resize this, now it would look good, right? Your frame looks good when you have a size of this username, password, submit, and cancel buttons, right? So maybe you can go and resize it. Instead of taking a 300 size, I will take it as only 150, right? So, and this one I can make it 200. So I will close this and rerun my application to see how it looks. Okay, but it is squashed a lot, username, password, but yes, it looks still better. So username, you can fill the username, test, password, test, click on submit, cancel. So UI is ready, right? Now if I want that this should not be maximized, else your UI is getting like collapsed, totally will break out. See, right? So you want that this should not be resized. User cannot resize it. Okay, so for that what you can do, you can just stop resizing. You can set the property to disable. So set resizable as false, right? So let's run this once again. Okay, you get now, and if you want to resize it, you cannot. The resize button is not available. From here you can close it, right? So now we have created a frame, right, which is looking good, but not too good, I know. And what else we can do in this session? The one thing that we are missing is we talked about adding the inheritance of the JFrame, right, which is not available here. So let's change this program. This is program we have done. I'll just copy this and we'll keep a copy of this. Let's save it. Login frame 1. Okay, I'll change it as login frame 1. Fine. Now I want to, where is my frame demo? Okay, I'll close this login frame because I have called a login frame over here. I'll close login frame 1. So now inside this, I'm going to make a change. I'll say extends JFrame, right? Now your login frame itself is a frame. It doesn't have to create a new frame, right? So you can remove this create JFrame. So if you create the JFrame, where are you going to add the panel? So we'll see it, not a worry. Create a panel, JPanel. Okay, you are referring frame variable a lot of times, right? So what can we do over here? We can call this dot add. So this means the current object, right? This means the current object. So here I'm calling this dot set location, this dot. So any instance of your login frame would be the instance of the frame, right? So I'm going to say this dot add panel, set size, set resizable. So everything you have configured here is of the panel, right? Sorry, of the frame. Everything you have configured here is of the frame, and then you have added the components to your panel, and you have initialized up your panel as well as the component, right? And you can see you are saved of the frame class. So we are not creating any new variable for the frame class because your login frame itself is frame. These things get limited. This won't be possible if your login frame is already extended from some other class, right? You cannot have multiple inheritance. Okay, so in that case we have to look for some other option, and the other option is you can create your own frame variables, right? So that is all for today's session. A quick workshop kind of thing. I'll try to keep this workshop more in upcoming days, right? I found this very interesting because GUI fascinates new developers as well as students, right? They can see a lot of magic going on with the frames. They can set the colors, right? Images, so it looks very interesting. So I got some requests for creating up GUI classes, and I'll try to resume up my existing Java training sessions also, plus the GUI sessions, right? I had few plans for like upcoming sessions in PHP and Laravel thing, but I have stopped them for some reason, for some time, but soon I'll resume those new batches also. Okay, so that's all for today's session. We'll soon meet, and I'll keep you updated in our Telegram channel. Thank you. Bye.